To a wild animal, you are not a neighbor. You are not neutral. You are the outline of the most dangerous predator that has ever lived on this planet. Not the biggest, not the fastest, the most dangerous. Every wild nervous system on Earth has been shaped around the shadow you cast when you walk into a clearing. So what happens when that predator kneels down to help? There is a moment researchers have documented again and again in the field that shouldn't make sense. A trapped animal stops fighting. It goes completely still. It lets the predator work around its body with his hands. Something is happening, and for a long time nobody could explain it cleanly. In December of 2005, a female humpback whale was found tangled in crab trap lines east of the Farallon Islands. She carried roughly 200 pounds of gear. Rope wound around her tail, her back, her flipper. A line ran through her mouth. A team of divers reached her that afternoon, and for nearly an hour, while they cut rope from her body with blades inches from her skin, she floated, passive, still. One diver later said her eye tracked him the entire time. An animal capable of killing a man with a single flick of its tail chose for 1 hour not to. In 2007, a team led by biologist Lori Marino published findings that help explain this stillness. Humpback whales carry spindle neurons, a rare cell type concentrated in brain regions tied to social awareness and emotional processing in humans and great apes. That is not proof of thought as you experience it. It is proof of the hardware. Whatever happened off the Farallones, it did not happen in a brain built only for reflex. Now take the wolf. Field researchers have documented something similar, though rarer, in wild encounters. A wolf caught in a snare, lunging at anything that comes near. A researcher holds still, holds eye contact, doesn't advance, doesn't retreat. The lunging stops. The wolf goes rigid, watching, calculating. In one recorded case, the animal simply stood once freed, looked back at the person who had knelt beside it, and walked into the tree line without running. Wolves read intention through posture and gaze the way you read a sentence. Researchers Meck and Botani, whose decades of fieldwork reshaped how we understand wolf behavior, documented exactly this kind of rapid threat reassessment. A wolf does not need language to ask, "Am I in danger right now?" It answers that question every few seconds of its life. Here is the reframe. What you are watching in the whale and the wolf is not an animal deciding to trust a human the way you trust a friend. It is something colder and more remarkable. It is a threat detection system running out of categories. A 2018 study on wild ungulates supports this from the inside. Researchers measured cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, across different traumas: gunshot wounds, vehicle collisions, entanglement in fences. The fence-entangled animals showed cortisol levels that matched or exceeded the ones that had been shot. Being held, it turns out, registers in a wild body as more threatening than a bullet. Which makes the stillness even stranger, because whatever happens when a trapped whale stops fighting human hands, it is not the absence of fear. The fear is still there, spiking, measurable. It is a system recalculating in real time whether fighting or freezing gives it better odds. And somewhere in that hour off the Farallones, the calculation shifted, not to trust exactly, to something closer to a held breath. Here is the part with no clean explanation. It's not the stillness during the rescue that's the real mystery. It's what happens after. The diver who cut the final rope from that whale's mouth described what happened next. She didn't flee. She circled back. She swam to each diver individually, nudged him, and moved to the next, the way a dog moves through a room of people it knows. Science has language for the fear. It has language for the freeze response, for cortisol thresholds, for spindle neurons, and social cognition. It does not have a clean model for the return. Why an animal that just endured the most dangerous hour of its life would circle back toward the source of its own vulnerability instead of leaving as fast as its body allowed? Maybe it's relief expressing itself the only way a body without language can, through proximity. Maybe it's something we don't have a category for yet, the way we once had no category for a whale having a brain built for grief. Because you do this too. Think about the last time you let your guard down completely around something that could have hurt you. A doctor's hands near your throat, a stranger pulling you from wreckage, someone you had every reason to distrust standing close enough to touch you, and some older part of your brain deciding in a fraction of a second that this was not a threat, but a hand. You didn't decide that with logic. Nobody does. It happens below language, in the same ancient wiring that told a whale to hold still for an hour while blades moved across her skin. To a wild animal, you are not a neighbor. You are not neutral. You are the outline of the most dangerous predator that has ever lived on this planet. And every so often, for reasons science can measure but not fully explain, that predator kneels down, and for one held breath, the animal in front of it decides to believe it.